Question 6. If r and s are two solutions of the equation above and r is greater than s, then which of the following is the value of r minus s? They just throw a lot of stuff at you, and I know it's freaky, but just remember, we're looking for solutions of a quadratic. There's 3 ways to solve a quadratic. What did I say? When in doubt, use the quadratic formula, right? So, well, or we could factor, whichever one you guys think. Maybe I'll do it both ways and you guys can decide which is easier, or let's practice the quadratic. Let's just practice. So I know that A is equal to 2, B is equal to 7, C is equal to negative 15. Don't forget that. And the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root. That's why we need to like write this down before we get started. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So that's the formula. Now, everywhere I see a b, everywhere I see, I have to change this eraser. Everywhere I see a b, instead I'm going to put 7. So I'm going to erase my b's here. And everywhere I see an a, I'm going to put 2, right? And everywhere I see a c, I'm going to put negative. So my a's first, 15. And my a is 2, and my c is negative 15. It's really important to remember that negative because the formula has a negative in there also, 15. Okay, and it's just like we have been doing. We're just going to simplify, plus or minus the square root of, instead of 7 squared, it's going to be 49, right? Minus, and then this is going to be negative because 4 times 2 is positive 8, and positive 8 times negative 15. Or I'm going to do it this way because I can do 4 times negative 15 in my head because there's 4 15 minutes in an hour. So 4 times negative 15 is negative 60 times a positive 2 is negative 120. All over 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, and then now I have 49 minus a negative 120, which means add. So I'm going to add 49 and 120, and that is 169, which is a perfect square, right? The square root of 169 is going to be plus or minus 13. 13 times 13 is 69. So what I have is negative 7 plus or minus 13 all over 4. But what I'm looking for is r is greater than s. So I need to actually find my two solutions, r and s. So r is greater than s means r is going to be the bigger number and s is going to be the smaller number. Okay, so one answer is going to be negative 7 plus 13, and I think that's going to be the bigger one because I'm adding. So I'm going to have negative 7 plus 13, and then divide that answer by 4. So negative 7 plus 13 is, help me out, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Positive 6, and 6 divided by 4 is 6/4, which is the same as 3 over 2. And s is going to be negative 7 minus 13, and that's going to give me a negative answer divided by 4. So it's going to be negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5. So this is where they get you with all of these work on this questions, because even after you find the solution, you still have to do one other thing, and that is subtract those solutions from each other. So r minus s, so 3 over 2 minus negative 5. So check it out, that minus a negative, same thing. We're going to get a positive. 5 plus 3 over 2 is going to be 5 and 3 over 2, but it wants it as an improper fraction, so we'll just change it by multiplying 2 times 5, which is 10, and then you add 3, which is 13, all over 2. So our answer is 13 over 2. All right, you guys, so Alan and Taylor are cutting lawns, and they have this little business. Each one, Alan, if you look down here, I'll highlight him in yellow, is $8.50 per hour, where X is hours, and it says that up here, X represents the number of hours, plus $15 for equipment. And Taylor is $9.25 per hour, so a little more per hour, but a little less for equipment. The question is asking us, which equation here on the side shows us values of X for which Taylor's total charge is greater than Alan's. So we're going to take these two equations and we're going to make Taylor's equation. We're going to set it up plus 12, and we're going to make that greater than Alan. Okay, that's 0.5x plus 15. Okay, and now we're just going to solve for x, right? Because all of our answers, look, all of our answers have an x in them. So we just want to get x by itself. So the first step is combining our like terms. Let's subtract 8.5x from each side. And we want to get everything else on the other side. So how about we do two steps? At the same time, we're going to subtract 12 from both sides. So that cancels out here. This cancels out here. So whatever we get on the side is going to be greater than positive 15 minus 12, 3. All right. And here we're going to have, let's see, 9.25 minus 8.5. I'm going to go backwards and say, well, 8.5 to 9.5 is 1, so it's less than 1 by 25 cents, so we call that 3/4. So we'll have 3/4 left over, and I'm writing it as 3/4 and not a decimal because since we're not using the calculator on this part, it's going to be easier to do fractions. Okay. So 9.25x minus 8.5x is 3/4 x, greater than 3. So to get rid of 3 over 4, we're going to multiply by the inverse, which is 4 over 3. Same on this side, 4 over 3, right? And so here, these 3's cancel out and these 4 cancel out. We just have 1x is greater than. And over here, look how easy this was with the fraction. The 3's cancel, and we're left with just the 4. Okay? So x is greater than 4. Our answer is A. And question 8. All right, so it gives us an equation. I love that. I feel like that makes everything easier. We're trying to find the relationship between the number of cups in. So our number of cups is equal to of hot chocolate sold per day in a coffee shop versus T, which is the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. So which words represent what's happening in this equation? So if our temperature was 0 degrees Fahrenheit, which is very cold, they would sell 456 cups of chocolate. So think about it. Are they going to sell more hot chocolate if it gets colder? Or if it gets warmer, are they going to sell less? Think of it as it gets warmer. As our temperature is going up, as our T-value is going up, are they going to sell more hot chocolate or less? So obviously they're going to sell less. That's why we have this subtraction sign here. So the higher our temperature goes, the less hot chocolate we're going to sell. So we can eliminate for every increase, anything that has more hot cocoa, we can eliminate. So it's not going to be A, it's not going to be B. Okay. So now for every increase of 1 degrees, we have 3 more, oh look, cups of hot chocolate will be sold. Or for every decrease of 1 degree, 3 more hot chocolates are going to be sold. So it's going to be that decrease. You could have just answered this, you guys, instead of getting all into the math. This is when you could kind of answer with common sense, right? So obviously it's not going to be this increase. It's not going to be this more. It's going to be this decrease in temperature right here. All right, a truck enters a stretch of road that drops 4 meters. Look at that keyword drops. We're going to be subtracting there, right? 4 meters in elevation for every 100 meters along the length of the road. I am thinking at this point we're probably going to do a ratio already because we have that for every 100 meters. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. So we have 4 meters of elevation for every 100 meters along the road, right? And the road is at 1,300 meters elevation where the truck entered. And the truck is traveling at 16 meters per second along the road. What is the elevation of the road in meters at the point where the truck passes t seconds after entering the highway? All right, you guys, without doing any more math, you can figure this out. Look, so we know that dropped means we're going to have minus, but they're all minus and they're all 1,300 minus, so we can't eliminate anything else yet. But the other thing I know is my ratio of here of 4 meters down for every 100 meters of road. So what does 4 over 100 look like as a decimal? Well, think about it as either percents or as actual cents, like pennies. If I was going to write 4 pennies, you would write it as 0.4. Okay, so we can already tell it's going to be A just from that. No actual math really is necessary. Well, I think I have time for one more, you guys. Okay, if f of x minus 1 is equal to x plus 3, what is the value of f of negative 3? So this is tricky because we need to figure out what x is, right? If we have, so our original function is f of x minus 1. It wants us to do f of negative 3. So you have to think to yourself, how am I going to make x minus 1? What value am I going to input for x to make that function of negative 3? Okay, what value of x is going to make this negative 3? And that is going to be negative 2. So our input is actually going to be negative 2, because if I put a negative 2 here and then I subtract 1, I'm going to have a negative 3. On the inside of my function, that's going to be my input. So now I can just evaluate the right side. 2 times negative 3 plus 3. So order of operations, don't forget this in the middle of doing all of this. Multiply first, I get negative 6 plus 3 is equal to negative 3. To 10, 6 to 10.